A prominent U.S. political figure recently shared a sprawling manifesto-style post. The text explicitly labeled India and China as hellholes and took direct aim at Indian tech workers, mocking their English language skills. Almost simultaneously, the U.S. State Department delivered a second, heavier blow. They have officially announced that a massive criminal fentanyl network supplying Mexican drug cartels is operating directly out of India. For years, India has aggressively cultivated a specific global brand. New Delhi projects the image of a Vishwa Guru, a global teacher, led by a nationalistic government that demands international respect and refuses to be pushed around. Yet, in the face of these dual attacks on national pride and security, Prime Minister Modi and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar offered absolute silence. The official response was entirely delegated to a junior spokesperson. The resulting statement was a dismissive, "We have seen some reports," effectively burying the issue before it could even generate a headline. Why would a government that markets itself on strength choose to tolerate direct xenophobic attacks on its citizens without putting up a fight? In order to understand how strange this is, we have to look at the standard protocol for modern diplomatic allies. Typically, when the citizens of a major global power are insulted by foreign political rhetoric, their leadership forcefully pushes back. For instance, when U.S. political rhetoric targets Canada, their leadership actively defends their national dignity in front of the press. European leaders, like the President of France and the Prime Minister of the UK, routinely and publicly reject baseless, inflammatory rhetoric from American political figures. Even the Iranian consulate in Mumbai issued public statements defending against the xenophobic hellhole comments. New Delhi remained completely quiet. Compared to the vocal defense seen in Ottawa, Paris, and London, India's position stands as a notable departure from the behavior of its global peers. The silence suggests a prioritization of something other than national honor. The government's silence is rooted in the intersection of international diplomacy and a specific domestic strategy. The American political rhetoric in question relies on anti-immigrant and exclusionary language to consolidate a specific, highly conservative voter base. This aligns with the Indian government's own domestic tactics. During state elections, leadership employs anti-infiltrator rhetoric to rally voters. If the Prime Minister condemns xenophobia abroad, he conflicts with the logic his party uses at home. Publicly criticizing these attacks means acknowledging the real-world consequences of targeting specific groups, a move that would undermine a primary method used to win domestic elections. Foreign policy is essentially being held hostage by domestic politics. The leadership cannot defend Indians abroad because they rely on the same politics of exclusion themselves. This ideological alignment leads to a dynamic where Indian officials appear to appease American power rather than challenge it. At a recent event at the Hudson Institute in Washington, D.C., a prominent Indian ruling party leader publicly backtracked on statements regarding U.S. tariffs and Russian oil after facing criticism. This immediate withdrawal of factual statements highlights a preference for avoiding friction with U.S. figures over asserting India's independent policy. This pattern of silence reflects a leadership that values its ideological ties to U.S. populism more than the defense of its own national image. The real-world consequences of this silence are felt by the millions of Indian diaspora living, working, and studying abroad. U.S. congressmen are warning that unchallenged remarks breed actual hostility and racism against immigrants on the ground. Even conservative Hindu-American organizations that have historically supported U.S. strongmen are now publicly calling for these derogatory posts to be removed. When a home country leaves racist rhetoric unaddressed, it suggests to extremist groups that these communities lack diplomatic backing from their country of origin. The reputational damage is mounting. By choosing not to address accusations about drug networks or hellhole comments, New Delhi projects a sense of vulnerability to the international community. Global leadership involves the courage to confront powerful allies when citizens are insulted. It requires a defense of the people that goes beyond demanding superficial respect at global summits. A government that subordinates the dignity of its people abroad to protect its own divisive rhetoric at home falls short of the Vishwa Guru ideal. It presents the image of a leadership that is fundamentally compromised.